You're watching Network Africa on Channels Television. It's no longer news that the Nigerian Senate is poised to enact a law that will prescribe the death penalty for kidnapping and hostage-taking in the country. This resolve is speculated to have been considered after the kidnap and rescue of Senator Iyabo Anishilowo. Available statistics show that 225 kidnap cases were recorded between October and November last year across 24 states. In all, 85 billion naira worth of ransom money was demanded, while 28 million naira was paid by victims' families or the government. Let's go now to groups like Amnesty International, which are working towards abolishing the death penalty on a global scale. Let's find out what they think on the matter. Joining us is Amnesty International's Oluwatosin Pupola. He's the advocate advisor for death penalty in the organization. Oluwatosin, thank you for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you very much.
And so Amnesty, of course, has heard about the plans the Nigerian Senate has to enact this bill. What does Amnesty think about this?
Amnesty International opposes the death penalty in all cases without exception, regardless of the nature or circumstances of the crime, guilt, innocence, or other characteristics of the individual, or the method used by the state to carry out the execution. The death penalty violates the right to life as proclaimed in the Universal Declaration of Rights. It's the ultimate cruel, inhuman, and degrading punishment. Indeed, Nigeria's Senate has the constitutional mandate to make laws for the country. However, the Senate will be violating Nigeria's obligations under international human rights law if it passes a law prescribing the death penalty for kidnapping. In 1993, Nigeria became a state party to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And Article 6 of that treaty provides that countries that have not abolished the death penalty should only use the punishment for the most serious crimes. And under international human rights law and standards, most serious crimes are crimes that involve intentional killing. Kidnapping does not meet the threshold of most serious crimes. Therefore, Amnesty International is calling on the Senate not to have recourse to the death penalty in its plans to criminalize kidnapping.
So you don't think that enacting the death penalty would be enough to curb kidnapping, or you think that it is a punishment too severe for kidnapping?
There is no credible evidence that the death penalty is a particular deterrent to kidnapping or any other crime. Studies conducted by the United Nations across different regions of the world have concluded that the death penalty does not have a greater deterrent effect than terms of imprisonment. For example, it's been over 30 years since the death penalty was introduced for armed robbery in Nigeria, but there's no credible evidence that that has led to the reduction of armed robbery in the country. In fact, the majority of death sentences imposed in Nigeria are for armed robbery, which suggests that the death penalty has not had any deterrent effect on that crime. Also, since the introduction of the death penalty for kidnapping in a number of states, including Edo, Delta, and Cross River, there's been no credible evidence to indicate that the crime of kidnapping has reduced in those states. It's important for the government to address the problem of kidnapping. However, the death penalty is not the solution.
So what would it mean to Amnesty International if this law is enacted?
The Senate's plans to expand the scope of the death penalty rather than abolishing it is against the positive trend that has been witnessed globally, and it will be a setback for the abolitionist movement in Nigeria. The world is moving away from the use of the death penalty. In 1977, when Amnesty International began campaigning for the worldwide abolition of the death penalty, only 16 countries had abolished the death penalty for all crimes. As of today, 102 countries, a majority of all the countries in the world, have abolished the death penalty for all crimes, including in 2015, Madagascar and the Republic of Congo in Africa.
We seem to be having a problem with the connection there with Oluwatosin. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm just being told that he was just done with what he said. Oluwatosin, glad you're still with us. But you did mention earlier that Nigeria needs to find other alternatives for curbing kidnapping. So what other alternatives would Amnesty International suggest in place of the death penalty?
The government should take steps in addressing the root causes of crime. For example, by dealing with the high unemployment in the country and ensuring that the police and other crime-fighting agencies are well funded, trained and equipped to deal with crime. Good investigation into alleged crime, timely arrests of suspects, and effective prosecution will go a long way in reducing crime.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa. Oluwatosin Pupola, the advocate advisor for death penalty in Amnesty International. Speaking of the organization, you remember that 2 days ago the group released a report as regards the situation in Nigeria's northeast, which has borne the brunt of a series of attacks by Boko Haram. According to that report, Amnesty International did reveal that 11 children under the age of 6, including 4 babies, are among 149 people who have died this year following their detention in horrendous conditions in the notorious Giwa Barracks Detention Center right in Maiduguri, Nigeria. In its defense, the Nigerian military has described the report as false, saying it's only an attempt by the group to score cheap points.
Our operations have been completely open. We are transparent, and we cannot in any way, dehumanize, traumatize, or suffer our country, men and women, for no just cause. They have never approached us. That's why I said we entirely rejected the one-sided report. It is one-sided, and it doesn't meet the international standard. You understand? If 2 parties are involved, I think DOCRO expects you to go and hear from both parties. More so, those guys you are accusing of have approached you. They took you to their facilities, they saw it, you made recommendations, they complied with your recommendations, and for God's sake, what else do they want us to do? So I think, the similar reports were posted in sometime early this year or late last year from the same Amnesty. So one can begin to wonder whether the international non-governmental organizations are really siding the non-state actors. One may conclude that.